Welcome to Booked, where two posh cunts tell you about the books they're reading. I'm Rob Olson.
And I'm Livia Snedden. This fucking Gadge comes up with this this clever intro that was a lot longer than what you heard. But that's a perfect way to kick off this review episode of Booked. Here's a little backstory. So we're reviewing something that's a little older than we normally do, but this was through our Patreon. What do we call them? Spiffs? What are they? Rewards?
Yeah.
Awards, something. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, rewards.
Jesse Lawrence, a longtime friend of the podcast and a staunch Patreon supporter, used his reward to have us read A Decent Ride by Irvine Welsh. This is going to make for an interesting review because there's a lot of mixed feelings on this book. So if you're not familiar with him, Irvine Welsh is the best-selling author of Trainspotting, Ecstasy, Glue, Porno, Filth, Marabou, Stork Nightmares, The Acid House, Skag Boys, and most recently The Sex Lives of Siamese Twins, and currently is our neighbor in Chicago, Illinois.
So this is going to be an interesting review because for me, this is my first Welsh book that I'm reading, which is one of those things where when you hear, the things he's written and stuff, you're like, oh man, I feel bad for not having read other stuff. What about you, Livius?
Yeah, I'm probably the last one too.
No,
I haven't read any Irvine Welsh, but if this is the meter by which we're going to judge Irvine Welsh, again, it's going to be an interesting review. But you're right. I mean, Trainspotting is huge, and I know Porno. The other ones, I mean, I've seen them because let's face it, when you participate in the same social media community that we do, Irvine Welsh comes up frequently. So now the question becomes, why so frequently? Maybe we'll find out in this review.
Well, before we dive into our review of the book, here's the synopsis that we pulled from Amazon. A Decent Ride sees Irvine Welsh back in Edinburgh. Do you say the Berg? Edinburgh?
I think it's Edinburgh, but Edinburgh. I don't know.
It's one of those.
Sure.
We're already having trouble with language. This time with one of his most compelling and popular characters front and center, the rampaging force of nature that is Juice Terry Lawson, first seen in Glue. Juice is a man who contains multitudes. He's a top shagger, drug-dealing, gonzo porn star, and taxi driver. As we ride along in Juice's cab through the depraved streets of Edinburgh, I'm just going to say that, Juice encounters a series of charmingly filthy characters, each of whom present their own unique challenges. He has is actually part of the synopsis. That wasn't me. Has he finally met his match in Hurricane Bawbag? Can he discover the fate of the missing beauty Ginty Magdalene and keep her idiot savant lover, the man-child wee Jaunty, out of prison? Will he find out the real motives of unscrupulous American businessman and reality TV star Ronald Checker? And crucially, will Juice be able to negotiate life after a terrible event robs him of his sexual virility? And can a new fascination for the game of golf help him to live without a decent ride? The meaning of the title is starting to sink in now, huh? So that's actually part of the synopsis as well. That wasn't me. So buckle your seatbelts and prepare for one unforgettable ride. I didn't read... This is one of those ones where I did not read the synopsis before reading the book. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I'm surprised made it into the synopsis for this book.
Yeah, I mean, the synopsis makes it sound like a goddamn mess. Right. I mean, no, but I mean, that sounds, and it's not as messy as the synopsis makes it sound. All of those things happen. Some of them kind of, I think what you were alluding to was that they were kind of like made to sound bigger in the synopsis than came through in the book. Yeah. Like, has he finally met his match in Hurricane Bawbag? The hurricane comes up a lot in the book, but really is a non-starter. Yeah,
it's like a thunderstorm.
Yeah, pretty much. So I see what you're saying, and it's all those things happen, and yes, it's a little all over the place, but it's not quite as messy as that makes it out to sound. To start off, I guess the first part in the synopsis, this is what our third book now where we've started partway into a series. Not that it's a series necessarily. I don't know that we would have gained anything from reading the other ones, but
it has character crossover. So yeah, this has a character that was in an entirely different book, and I think maybe other character crossovers as well.
Yeah. So it's so hard to remember how it starts out, and here's why. This book is written from multiple aspects. So we have first person from Terry, we have first person from Jonty, we have third person for everybody, we have some first person from Ronnie, we have some first person from Juice's junk.
Yeah, there's a penis perspective. I think that's the first. If that's not the first, that's not a first, then I'm surprised.
Yeah, we have some diary entries, we have some overall third person. In some places towards the end, we have some weird where like one chapter kind of switches who it's following, even though that's not. Yeah, I mean, so it's in the beginning. I think we start off with Terry, but I'm not really sure. So
I think he's picking up Ronnie at the airport.
Right. So he picks up Ronnie at the airport, and Ronnie is an American businessman, land developer who has his own reality show. And is a big deal, but of course has had his troubles in the media and stuff. Ronnie signs Juice, or you call him Juice, or you call him Terry for simplicity's sake, I don't know. Signs Terry up to basically give him rides around town for the time that he's there, and pays him, Terry kind of, I don't know, maneuvers him into paying a large amount of money to be his personal chauffeur and kind of hangout guy for a week or whatever it is. And then Ronnie goes to a funeral for one of his closest friends who dies in a very...
Terry.
I'm sorry, what did I say, Ronnie? Terry, sorry. Terry goes to a funeral for one of his closest friends who dies in a really kind of awkward and embarrassing situation.
So when Terry picked up Ronnie, we kind of got a... If you hadn't read Glue yet, I'm assuming. So this is from us having no previous experience with the character of Terry. We get a taste of his personality in the car when he's driving Ronnie somewhere, talking about women a lot, and you're thinking, okay, this guy's really focused on women. But then he gives this speech at the funeral, and not only is he obviously quite the womanizer, he just is just a dick, because he tells this fucked up story about how the guy died, and it's like super embarrassing, and it pisses off the family, and offends everybody and stuff like that. So it's obviously setting up that if this is your first introduction to the Terry character, he is just a remorseless like jerk who only cares about banging chicks, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because and when I say we, maybe just me, have seen this type of character before, and I think it's just that I don't even know if it's that he's remorseless. I just think he doesn't have the sense not to say some things.
Like he lacks social graces?
Yeah, I mean, he reminds... most recently, I watched some of the Dice sitcom on Showtime. And Dice even comes across as that sometimes. Like there's a part where where Dice is giving a speech at a gay wedding. And it kind of turns into the, hey, these two homos love banging each other, kind of thing. Yeah. He doesn't know that he's doing anything wrong. I kind of got that same feeling from Juice, from Terry, that he's not that he's a jerk, that he just expects that the rest of the world thinks like he does, and he's confused when they don't.
Sure.
So we have that, which is a catalyst for things that happen far later in the book that aren't even brought up in this kind of wavering synopsis. So I guess we'll kind of move into our third and fourth characters, which I think pretty much covers the basis for important characters. You have Jinty and Jonty, who are a couple. Jinty, all right, so let's back up. I guess Jonty he's a little slow. I'm not going to go to the point to say that he's mentally incapacitated, but he's very childlike in his thoughts about things. Simple. He's very simple. Jinty, on the other hand, who is his girlfriend and loves him dearly, and he loves her, she's a little less simple. So she has convinced Jonty that she cleans houses, but really she's a prostitute. And in a sauna, which I guess is, I don't know, maybe Scottish for whorehouse. I don't know if all saunas there are prostitutes, but this is definitely a sauna. And she definitely works in there having sex with men for money. But she loves Jonty dearly, and it's her job, not, it's not so much, how do I say, it's not that she's like, running out to cheat on Jonty. This is how she makes money for them to be able to live.
I'm trying to think of the best way to introduce, because I want to talk more about Ginty and Jonty, but we talked about the hurricane ball bag really quickly because it came up in the ball bag. It came up in the synopsis, and so the events that take place that are kind of what caused the rest of the book to happen are on the evening of when this hurricane is supposed to hit Scotland, which I didn't know that was even a thing. That hurricanes, they just don't happen up there, right? Is that?
Oh, I thought you meant Scotland was a thing. I was like, man, I even knew Scotland was a thing. No, I didn't know if they had hurricanes, but I don't know. It's sunny there all the time, right? Sunny and warm.
Not my impression at all.
Rainy and cold, I believe, right? Yeah.
So there's this night where everybody, and even in the book, it's obvious that it's not a common thing because half of the people aren't taking it seriously, other half are freaking out. When on the night that this happens, Terry, who is doing a favor to, I guess we have to briefly introduce another character called the Poof. Yeah, the Poof is a gangster who owns and runs the sauna that Ginty works at. Is going out of town for legal reasons because he's kind of feeling some heat, so he goes out to Spain, and he asks Terry, who he went to school with, to just kind of keep an eye on things. And so Terry's kind of checking in on the sauna, offers Ginty a ride in his cab, but not like a ride, but then it turns into a ride, right? Like,
just trying to think if anybody's able to follow. We're on like chapter 3. I don't know if anybody's able to stay with us on what's happening in this book.
So he basically wants to have sex with her, but not as a prostitute, just because he wants to have sex with her. And they do. They have some sex, and then they go to a bar called the Pub with No Name, which is not the greatest name for a bar. And he offers her some drugs. What was the chinky? Is that cocaine?
That's cocaine, yeah.
I thought so. So they called it chinky, right?
Chink, yeah. I don't know what chinky, but I think it's chink.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being accidentally racist.
Not to be confused with what happens if you're wearing armor.
Right.
And that's a different thing.
That's a different thing altogether.
That's a different chink.
Offers her the drugs, and she starts to get high, and then all kinds of crazy stuff happens. Jonty comes looking for her, finds her in the bathroom, doing more drugs with someone else, and she's got her boobs out, and so he freaks out. This all happens on the night of the hurricane, and stuff goes a little bit nutty. So, I don't know, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but I thought it was important to talk about, because that moment where Jonty finds Ginty doing the thing, and Terry had sex with her, but Jonty doesn't know it, kind of a big moment in the book. Yeah,
and I don't remember if this is even in... it's in the thing. She goes missing shortly. She goes missing that night, basically.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a catalyst for a good portion of the rest of the book, at least. Jonty's whole story, and a little bit with Terry. But there is a cast of characters. I wish I would have kept track. There's 100 characters in this, right? Yeah. I know. I mean, like, if you really total up all the people, like the 6 or 7 guys that are always hanging out at the pub, and then you've got the other guys.
The cab drivers.
Yeah, there's the cab drivers. There's the other guys, the golfers. From not Ronnie's nemesis. I mean, there's all these. Everybody's parents are in this. I mean, it's it's fucking chaos. I mean, it's there's so many people. It's not hard to follow. once you get into the story. What is a little off-putting, and I guess we talk about this now, is and Rob alluded a little bit to it. We joked a little bit about the beginning about the slang, then we talked about chinky, and we talked about saunas being whorehouses or whatever. This book, or a good portion of this book, is written in flat-out Scottish dialect. So not just that they call cocaine chink or whorehouses saunas, if that's the case, or whatever, but whenever you're seeing dialogue specifically, mostly from Terry and Jonty, you're reading it in words that are foreign to you as an English-speaking human being. And I don't have my copy open. I guess I could. But, it's when it's to, the word to, like I'm going to the store, it's TAE, like Tay the store. And I'm going to randomly pick a chapter. Running a boot deft, worried a boot wee genty, doon the stair twice, sir twice, dinna ken where, spelled WHARE, she is. Keep trying, Tay, TAE. Gie her a phone on the mobile and I, sir, on the mobile. Like, it's really, really hard to follow. This is chapter 8, by the way.
I've got one that I sent to someone to explain just how fucked up this is. So I'll read the quote and then I'll read it what I explained the quote was. Per boy looks that dippet a probably doesna even ken she's been graftin' as a Roger Moore. And that's supposed to make you understand that the character is pitying another one for not knowing his girlfriend is a prostitute.
What was the Roger Moore thing? I actually remember reading Roger Moore, and I was thinking like a spy, like someone who's undercover. Like I don't.
So there was certain points in the book where they did use like the Cockney slang, like the rhyming slang, and that was one of those. Roger Moore means whore.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah. So. I picked up on that.
Easy to understand, right? I mean, that's entire fucking chapters written that way.
There was a few. There was Scooby-Doo, which I think is rhyming for clue, and there was Hampton Roar meant something. George Bernard Shaw's, I think, meant balls. Yeah, there was a few. Roger Moore was the other one. Yeah. Yeah, it's fucked up.
See, all of that eluded me.
Yeah. I went the extra miles, the extra kilometer.
Yeah, nice. So on top of having a ton of characters to keep straight, you have this kind of dialect issue, and it changes. And man, like a breath of fresh air. You'd start that next chapter, and you'd see it's like a omnipotent narrator, and you're like, yeah, here we go. I can barrel through 4 pages, and then we're going right back to this shite.
Oh man, I already love the fact that you said everybody's parents is in this book.
Fucking no, but am I wrong?
Not at all.
Every single character's
everybody's
makes
parents.
An appearance. Yep, an appearance. There's even like some paternity questions with Terry. So Terry, just to give you an idea, Terry and Jonty share the same father. So their father. Do you remember his name? Hank? No, Hank
Henry.
was the brother. Henry.
Right? Yeah, Henry
was a lot like Terry, in that he was hitting everything that moved. So he's got kids all over the place. And Terry even alludes to how sometimes he has to find out who someone's father is in town, a woman, so he's not having like sex with his sister. Terry and Jonty are brothers, and their father is ailing poorly, I guess. I don't know. He's ailing, very ailing father. It's like on his deathbed. But, there's some questions of paternity there. But, both Jonty's mother is in this. Terry's mother is in this. Jinty's father is in. I mean, it's Terry, his own kids. Like 18 of them. They just keep showing up throughout the course of the book. Because early on, he's got the 2 little ones that he takes to see.
Which I didn't know those were his kids until the very end of the book.
Yeah, and then later he's got the kid who's like a lawyer who like graduated college. He's got the daughter who wants to be in porn. And it just, Here's the thing, American writers, we talked about this a long time ago. American writers keep it simple, 8-10 characters tops. Fucking non-American writers are like, I got to get everybody in this town into this book somehow. And man, he did a good job of covering all the bases. He got everybody.
books, foreign books are like weddings. Like, you can't leave anybody out.
Yep.
Like, if some character's uncle found out they weren't in the book, they'd be pissed off.
He'd be like, this cunt didn't put me in his friggin' book. I don't know. It'd be...
So, all right. So I think...
I cannot believe...
So I think it bears to at least acknowledge, since we've been talking about how complicated it is to read this book, that we're coming into Welsh's world like 9 books into him being an established writer in this style, I believe. I think this is a common thing for him. So...
Okay, but to be fair then, if it is, then his first book's like this too. You don't think it started off a little bit, it was like a sentence here and there, and then all of a sudden he went batshit crazy and they just get worse as they go?
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, like, I think that would be... You get what I'm saying? Like, the objection would be like, dude, that's how he writes, you know? Like...
Well, yeah. I know. I understand what you're saying. I'm just thinking if that's how he writes, then that's how he wrote the first one. So coming along late doesn't...
Right, doesn't afford him any kind of quarter.
I
mean,
see
what you're saying.
Here's the thing. I get it. And I'm sure this will come up a lot more in my wrap-up of this book. I get it. That's how he writes. That's cool. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's cool. Like, that's how he writes. Okay. I remember reading Pygmy from Chuck Palahniuk that was written in a similar way, and when I say that, the Pygmy language was kind of all made up. Like, it was, this guy had learned English, so it was really hard to follow and stuff, but it was done that way. I know this was done on purpose too, but I'm saying that was part of the book. He came from this fictional culture and was trying to like embed himself in American culture, and obviously stood out like a sore thumb. It was very central to the story. With this, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if a Scottish person could pick this up and just read straight through it and understand everything. I'm assuming it's more likely to happen. But here we are reading it in the United States.
So that begs the question: had he written it in what I'm going to go ahead and call plain English, and I'm going to try to not sound insulting by that. Had he written it in an easier way to read, would it have felt as authentic as far as the culture he was trying to, put across? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because yeah.
I don't know. I think that has a lot to do with perspective. So if he kept the dialogue this way for the characters that needed the dialogue to be this way, and there are parts where, Terry talks to somebody else who's Scottish. The girl, the playwright, Suicide Sal, was that her name?
Yes.
She doesn't talk like this.
True.
When you read her parts. So
you're saying give me an omniscient narrator and keep the dialogue? Like, that would have been easier?
Well, it certainly would have been easier because there wouldn't have been entire chapters. Now, when we're talking about Jonty is slow and simple, I think was the fair word we used. So his thought process is really fucked up too. On top of that, you've got words and sentences that are indecipherable, right? Whoa. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm sure that would have helped. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't mind reading books that are work if the work is required for the story. House of Leaves is a tough fucking book to read and worth every minute. Pygmy, I know I'm in the minority. I really like Pygmy. Pygmy suffered from a lot of the same difficulties this did, but I thought it was really important to that story, and I just don't feel it was that important to this story.
So I was going to go into like precedent, and you already opened that door. So like pretty much Mark Danielewski makes you work for everything. But that's in the style of the book. Yeah, that's a tough call, but I'm gonna err on the side of it's the way. Okay, so we're not going to come to an agreement on this because I think I can see both sides. Like, dude, just make it easy for me to read. You would make a very good point. Like, if it's a make it or break it part of the story. Like, I'm not going to get out of the story what, the writer wants me to, unless it's like this. That's kind of what you're getting at, right? Like,
yes. Yeah, I just didn't think it was necessary.
So now I'm going to introduce Jesse, who suggested this book, or I guess made us read this book, right? Because it was his Patreon thing.
Correct.
I think him and Misty Bennett, who is another friend of the podcast, enjoy the book because of that, as opposed to us not liking the book because of it.
And that's a possibility. Look, I'm not going to argue that Irvine Welsh isn't a well-respected and well-liked and well-read author. He's if we were to go through and rank every author that we've reviewed based on success, he's in the top 20, maybe 15.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so we're not reviewing something from a small press where maybe 1,000 copies of these books are sold, and ultimately very few people read them. There's got to be a group of people that do that. That group of people, if it wasn't for this podcast, wouldn't be me. I wouldn't have made it 4 chapters in if this was my own personal reading time, pre-podcast, whatever. The story didn't grab me enough from the beginning to make me do the work, nor did it seem like the type of story that required work. So,
yeah. I'm on the fence about that too. I think that I'm going to introduce 2 thoughts. First of all, there was a book that I balked at first because it was this very similar thing. Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer, who, if you don't remember, Rob Hart full-heartedly shit on Jonathan Safran Foer for being taking advantage of 9/11 when he wrote Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I just want to remind everybody of that because that was awesome. But anyway, Everything is Illuminated. In the beginning, there's a guy who I think talks in a really like Russian using American English as a second language kind of voice that's really distracting, and that's how you start reading the book. So for like the first 40 pages, you're like, I can hardly fucking understand what's going on, and I put down the book because of it. Later on, I tried reading it again and got through it. So yeah, that's a genuine problem. I think. Now, did you say had you not been reading this for the podcast, you would have not finished it?
I likely would not have finished it.
Because I was thinking the exact opposite. If I had more time to kind of spread it out, because I kind of pack a book into a day or two, I think I would have had an easier time reading it because I wasn't trying to process so much so quickly. So, I don't know. It's either way, we both had some fucking trouble getting through this book.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want, like I think we've talked about the writing style enough. I want to get back because there's good things here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to the story. So if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of rifle shot some things that are in this story and see if we can cover a little bit more of the plot. Okay.
Yeah.
Ronnie is in Scotland. He's working on some land deal, but ultimately he's there to get a very, very rare bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
There's 3 in existence. He already owns 1. Turns out that there's a legal problem. Something happens and one of the bottles goes missing. So that's one of the side plots. We talked about Terry and Jonty's dad being in the hospital. So you have another kind of side plot. Terry starts, I don't know if I want to say a romance, but a relationship with a woman who's about to kill herself. He stops her from killing herself. How? By having sex with her in the back of his cab. How you always stop a woman from killing themselves.
Is that how? That. Okay.
Yeah. If you ever see a woman on a bridge, hail a cab. Yeah. You've got ultimately Terry's diagnosed with a heart condition and he can't have sex anymore. So that is a big deal. And if you get to know Terry, huge deal.
Jonty's
mother is like my 600-pound life big. Like she can't leave the house and her health is failing and she may die. You've got Ginty who's missing and Jonty who's dealing with that and people who are looking for her. And then there's the whorehouse thing. I mean, so you've got a million different things going on. I think I covered all of the big. You've got some big soccer game that I didn't really understand. Right, with the Hibs.
It was
something else.
It wasn't soccer. It was Fitbay. I think it was Fitba. No, it was Fitba.
Yeah, Fitbae, Fitba.
Yeah.
And there's the Hibs versus the Hearts. There was something else happening there too.
I think that was kind of a racist thing.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding. It was.
Oh, I don't know, because there was some racism
Hibs
stuff.
just sounds like super racist, right?
Yeah, it does. And he had that Hib neighbor. So the Johnsy's downstairs neighbor, I don't know, was a woman, a burqa wearing Hib.
She was
I don't know.
Pakistani or something.
Was she I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. So if you guys get that, I think I covered most of the plot lines in this, which is pretty crazy. Terry starts golfing because Ronnie is going to have a golf match against somebody for a bottle of this really expensive whiskey. It's all over the place.
It's really lots of stuff going on.
This book, there's 2 funerals that take place during this book. There's incest. There's, I don't know if you can even call the other one rape, but there's definitely some unrequited man-on-man sex that happens at one point.
It's rape-ish.
Yeah. So
there's sex with. There might be sex with a corpse at some point.
There's that. There's a lot is crammed into this fucking book, and that's only the parts we understood.
Yeah, there's got to be weirder stuff. Yeah,
there may have been more stuff. So, that being said, the story makes sense, even though it's really sprawling. It's fairly linear. You can kind of understand all the things that are happening. I don't think there's too many reaches like you typically get in the story where something's a little far-fetched.
Yeah.
To come together.
He definitely did a good job of making it seem like all of this was more or less possible. I mean, some things were a little bit of a reach, but like, it's almost like I could see this being like him retelling stories from the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's even a weird time thing that happens. So, at 70% of the way in this fucking book moves forward 4 months.
4 months.
Up until then, it covers like a week. Then it jumps forward 4 months, which you expect is going to be the wrap-up. But, I mean, if you're reading the paper version, obviously you can see there's a bunch of pages left. And the Kindle version, I was like, no, there's still 28% of this book left.
Yeah.
So I think that he kind of threw any rule book out of the window on like keeping one perspective, keeping stories, because it's linear, but it just jumps forward. So like time constraints on stories. He's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm fucking Irvine Welsh.
And to give the guy credit, like it all ties together. It all works together. It's all one kind of flowing mesh of stories that there's, like you said, there's no weird plot holes or things that don't seem right. It all fits together, but it's just this big weird Scottish mess. But it's entertaining. It's like you get that movie where there's like 1,000 different people and their plot lines all kind of somehow work with each other and in creative ways, and that's what this is. And I was thinking throughout this that it was like, man, this is one of those books where I should have just waited for the movie because it's really difficult to read. But the story, if you're looking at the story just from an objective view, is well written and definitely entertaining and solid.
It still bugs the shit out of me, man. First of all, can I just say, and this is completely off topic, I am looking at Rob's notes, and I don't even know how we're friends. You fucking misspelled necrophilia.
How's it spelled? Oh, with 2 I's. Sorry. I fixed it.
I don't even know if we could be friends anymore. That's what really upsets me about all of this.
That's what's going to...
Yeah, it wasn't this book, surprisingly enough. No, I'm actually looking. So you had another note here, and I don't know if it's the size of the font I have on my Kindle, why I didn't see this. But there are chapters. We were talking about style. And, oh, yeah, I guess it is kind of shaped like a penis.
You didn't notice that?
I can't screenshot this, and it's not worth taking pictures of it. I think because of the size font I have on my Kindle, it really doesn't lend itself to... You were reading this on an iPad. Assuming, right?
Yeah, I will do a screenshot of one of them.
Yeah.
So you can see what I saw. I'm going to show you a screenshot of a penis.
I'm going to read you some research that that Rob did. The word cunt occurs 764 times, and we should talk about this. The word cunt, so Rob, define the word cunt for me. Like, what two ways would you use cunt if you were, not the gentleman that you are?
I would. Oh, if I were not the gentleman. Okay, good. Thanks for giving me the out.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cunt. I mean, there's it's kind of like it's a term that's used for a part of the female anatomy, the vagina.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
As far as when it's referring to a person, I don't think that it's necessarily a negative thing. It's just like a filler word. My impression is it's like a filler word. Like someone could be a cunt that got you mad, but someone could also be a cunt, like the cunt that rang me up at the grocery store, and like it's not a negative thing. Like that's my impression of it.
Okay, I'm going to go a slightly different way. The way that I understand and have heard people, because I would never ever refer to a woman as a cunt. Here, stateside, it's pretty much I've only heard it used for women to describe.
Oh yeah,
a woman.
Well yeah, like, and that's definitely negative. Like in American slang, it's definitely like a negative thing to call someone a cunt.
In this book, cunt only refers to men. Oh, no, but this is a cultural thing. So that cunt over there, whatever, kind of what you're saying, but I'm pretty sure it was exclusively used to describe men. It was a lot of those cunts at the bar, this cunt that I just picked up in my cab. So I think that's a cultural difference thing, that somebody might be really turned off by 764 uses of the word cunt. But I think you're right. I think it was almost like saying this dude.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. Let's talk about the word fanny. Have we talked about this on the podcast before?
No, I don't think. No, I think we've talked about stuff like torch, but I don't think fanny's ever come up.
So let's do this. Let's do the same exercise. If I said to you, "Oh, hey, look at that fanny over there," what would that mean to you?
A butt. I'm hoping a woman's butt.
Yes, correct. Yes, I guess it could be a man's butt.
Could be a dude's butt.
Typically, if I was telling you to look, it's probably a woman's butt. So in the UK, and I don't know how this gets changed by crossing an ocean, fanny does not refer
to a booty,
to a butt. It refers to a cunt. It refers to a vagina.
Right.
So it takes some getting used to that as you're reading this. But, it made me think about how we came up with the word fanny pack.
I knew you were going to go there, man. Because it kind of hangs in the front.
Right. I'm pretty sure that this is how we came up with fanny pack. I think people are like, oh, because, you could wear it by your butt or whatever. No, that's not it.
Because it hangs by your vagina.
Yeah, or because if you're a man wearing one, you're a fucking pussy.
I don't know. That's pretty bulletproof logic. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can crack that one.
Yeah. The word "fuck" occurs 1,491 times, and this book, I think the paper version is listed out at 530 pages or something like that.
So it's three times a page.
3 times a page.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fuck happening right there.
Yeah, it's just pretty much nonstop. It's like a filler word again.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
definitely.
And mostly from Terry, who let's take a step back. Terry is a very lovable character. Do you agree?
Yeah. He's like that. He's the like annoying, good-hearted friend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That you're like, oh man, sometimes he's annoying, but like he's a good time. He's a decent ride.
He's a decent ride. Nice, Rob. That's very nice. I know we have to do quotes and stuff. Are we going to quote from this fucking book? Do we not do enough? I mean, I have stuff, but the thought of having to fucking read it is hurting my head.
I'm willing to suspend the use of quotes for this. Okay. I'm just going to look through mine really quick and see if there's anything that must be read.
See, like this, and this is we're just talking about the word fanny. So I think this is pretty late in the book. It's after Terry finds out that he can't he shouldn't have sex anymore because of his heart condition. And I don't know, he's talking, and then he's talking about reading the book, and he's talking about reading Moby Dick and The Great Gatsby and blah blah blah. And then he says, but I'm just gonna read this in fucking regular English. But I had to stop reading Wuthering Heights as I kept thinking about that Kate Bush, which set off a Fanny avalanche in my brain. A Fanny avalanche in my brain is brilliant.
That was good. All right, so here's one, like, if you want to know how fucking maddening it was to read some of this, but this is one of the more charming things, and that's why I quoted it, but it was still, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to read it phonetically. Dinna really ken what I meant, I'm going to try this. This is fucking difficult to do. Meaning me, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, and A meaning him,
right?
Okay.
And he,
yeah. A, they did it backwards, EH instead of HE. Mm-hmm. Dinna really ken what A means, but Terry kens dinna ken without me having to say I dinna ken. I, sir, A does.
Yeah. And fucking Jaunty, there are entire chapters written from his point of view, and that's Jaunty.
That's Jaunty.
Are we gonna talk a little bit about some of the other stuff? Is this gonna go into a Patreon only clip? Because there's some stuff that needs some talking about.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna do one more quote because there was one part of this book that I'm like, I know Livius is not going to be happy about reading this, but there's got to be this one aspect of the book, and I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, that just had to warm your heart or like have you feel like some sort of brotherhood or something. Can you think of something that was an ongoing thing throughout the book that you would have felt some sort of like kinship to?
The smokers, right?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. Which played a much bigger part in this book than you would expect. Because then there's like a chapter called like Revenge of the Smokers that has nothing to do with anything. Like I don't know. But there was a little bit of. There was the newspaper article. Is that what you're talking about? That's talking about the smokers who fucking fought the hurricane. No.
Well, that was good, but that's not my quote. So I'm going to read the quote. There's this person who is just. It's actually someone's parent. It was someone's father who's just completely incensed with the idea of smokers having to go outside to smoke. Scotland smokers erne extended the same rights. Nah, we have to go outside in the rain while jealous drug addicts, are free to break the law anytime they likes in the toilets. Oh, Maurice.
Yeah, Maurice, he was something else. Fucking booty rapist.
One term that came up throughout the book multiple times I want to see because you didn't pick up on some of that Cockney slang. Grassing someone up.
Yeah, no idea what that is.
I'm going to see how many times this came up. So, grassing someone up is slang for... And I think it comes from the phrase snake in the grass. But it could be some other thing. But it's basically like ratting someone out.
What do you have? Like Scottish Urban Dictionary? Like bookmarked on your...
No, it's actually from... That came up several times in the movie Rock and Rolla. And I had to look it up because I was like, the fuck are they keep talking about grassing someone up? So I did some research. That's it. All right, so I think that you want to talk spoilers?
Yeah, let's talk spoilers before we wrap up. All right, now that we're done with spoiler talk, which you can hear over at patreon.com/book if you're a Patreon subscriber. Rob, are we ready to wrap this bad boy up?
Yeah, I'm going to let you get started because I think I'm going to be a little bit nicer on this one than you are. This book was batshit crazy. We've talked a little bit. I'm probably not going to say a lot new that I haven't said during the course of the review. It's a huge cast. It's really hard to read at parts. Rob is still explaining things to me from Cockney, UrbanDictionary.com, or wherever he gets this information from.
Here's a kind of a pro and con list. We'll go with pros because that list is probably a little shorter. I really like Terry. I was rooting for him throughout. In spoiler talk, we talked about the one thing I thought in the book that did not stay true to what I thought his character was, and I'm not sure what his character is from the previous two books, so I might be corrected by somebody who is more familiar with his character. And some really crazy shit happened. This, I vaguely remember seeing Train Spotting, but I know that the big thing is the guy's digging around the toilet filled with diarrhea to find his drugs or whatever, and there's like the really disgusting scene. Rob said earlier he was waiting for the movie, and there are several kind of stomach-turning scenes from this book that we're not going to talk about in the regular review. We did talk about a little bit in spoilers. There's a scene later in the book takes place at a funeral. They'll probably be in my mind for a long, long time to come. There's the pros for me. The cons, hard to read. Even though it made sense, there was so much stuff in this book. Needed to be 150 pages shorter than it is. There's a whole lot of stuff in there that could have come out that I don't feel that we needed. And on top of making it difficult to read, now we made it long and difficult to read. If this is the style of writing that Irvine Welsh does, I'm in all his books, then I'm really sorry to hear that, because his Terry character alone is enough to get me to read another book, but not doing it through a 500 plus page, difficult to read, multi-viewpoint, multi-narrator, narrated from a penis, type of book. So I struggled with this a lot. I mean, not just struggle with reading, I struggled with what to review this, because I really, really like Terry a lot. I like some of the crazier shit that happens in this story, but ultimately it's going to come out to 2.5 stars for me.
Okay. Livia's make some good points. Here's what I'm going to say. This is one of those things where I feel like I'm coming into reading an author who has already built a very, very strong reputation for the style that he writes in. Does that allow them to do more crazy shit necessarily? I would point out Haruki Murakami, who is very, very well liked, whose book I fucking hated because I thought it was terrible. So I don't know. That's difficult because I know that this is the way the dude writes. I don't think it was something that I would have. I'll say it this way. I think it's something that I would have enjoyed more had I had more time to read it. Reading it under a deadline takes some of the fun out of, I think, the way the book is supposed to be read. I could be wrong, but for me, it took away some of the experience. That being said, the characters are great. Like Livia said, there's a lot going on. Everybody's parents are in the book, and it's so true in such a weird way. Even secondary characters like Suicide Sal, we mentioned maybe once in the regular review, her mom is in the book multiple times. So like everybody's parents are in this book a lot. So there's a lot going on, but for the most part, the story is consistently entertaining, and considering how complex it is, it's very well written. So I have to give points for that. Overall, the obvious objection is going to be having to understand what the hell's going on when you're reading this like phonetic Scottish version of English, which was just very complicated. Which, again, to the dude's credit, he pulled off a really good book considering he kind of hobbled the readers. I worry that to a point that's going to turn some people off, and that makes this book closer to probably art than your traditional book would be, because there's an entirely different conversation that comes in now with the style of the writing that isn't something that comes into a conversation in a typical like piece of literary fiction, or definitely not in genre fiction. So we had that conversation. I'm not gonna dwell on that. All this is to say, I like this story a lot. I wish I would have had some time to just sit around and enjoy reading the book instead of trying to cram it all in my head in the 1 to 2 days that I usually read the book. So that hurt it a little bit. But overall, I'm going to go 3.5 stars.
I looked up, and I don't know if Trainspotting is his first book, but I know it's one of his early ones. Apparently, that's also written in this exact same style, because I found an article about it that it says, oddly enough, kind of covers us and Misty Bennett and Jesse Lawrence all together. For readers of Trainspotting who do not come from lowland Scotland, the main difficulty of the novel is also one of its peculiar pleasures, making out what people are saying. For Welsh's characters do not only speak in dialect, they narrate in it too. Sick Boy apparently is one of the characters from Trainspotting. He's mentioned quite a few times, but I think he only actually shows up during 2 phone calls or maybe 3 phone calls in this book.
Yep.
So, yeah, and then it goes on to quote some things that sound exactly like they were out of this fucking book. I wanted the Raj to just fuck off ute my visage, to go own his ain and just leave us. So I'm guessing all of them are written this way in answer to, or to address something that we'd kind of wondered earlier.
Yep. Yeah, and it's going to be one of those polarizing things. Like, some people are going to love it, some are just going to hate it.
With a book like Trainspotting, you'd think that would have come up, though. You know what I mean? That as many times I've heard people talk about Trainspotting, that there would be some fucking disclaimer all over it. Like, hey, be careful. If you like to read books that are in, like, the English you're used to, this isn't it, kind of thing. But I've never heard that mentioned before.
Yeah, our friends are just dicks, apparently.
Well, yeah, one of them clearly is.
Yeah. So, it was a good book. It was, you know what I should have said? Right before I gave my stars, I should have called it a decent ride. Damn it.
God damn it.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. All right. Can we kindly move on?
Yeah. I don't know if we have anything else to talk about, though.
No, we have stuff.
Speaking of cunts, Paul Tremblay just recently interviewed Joe Hill.
I don't know which one of them you're calling a cunt, but yeah, I did see that. I saw that happen. That was a thing. I did, which is very, very cool. They're both, I believe they're both published by the same, right? They're both on William Morrow.
Probably. Yes, they are. They are. I know this.
Yeah. And we also know that Joe Hill's father thinks Paul Tremblay is the cat's meow. And I have to agree with him, because that book deserved winning the Bram Stoker Award. It won our Best Book of Last Year award that we did, remember? And we kind of summed up our top books. That it was an award, but then it wound up being our favorite of last year. So,
yeah.
So there was that. So, yeah. Let's see what else. Burnt Tongues just came out in another country. I saw that earlier today.
That sexy lady on the cover.
There is, talk about going a different direction with the cover, huh?
Yeah. I somehow feel like Brandon Tietz was kind of taking credit for that. He posted it up on the social medias, and I'm like, hey, all right. Okay, Brandon.
The German edition is out, which is super cool for a lot of friends of this podcast, who I'm assuming this is their first time that their work is being translated and brought to another people's. So congratulations, those of you that are in Burnt Tongues.
I wonder what the German for Paichos is.
Oh. God, we had so much fun with that.
Yeah, you got like 3 pies out of it. I got 0 pies out of it.
That fucking guy hated us. Still probably hates us.
He probably still, we haven't probably moved the needle on that one too much. He probably still hates us.
Yeah, no, he probably still hates us. Other than that, not a lot to talk about. I take it you're still watching Penny Dreadful. Is it still great?
Man, I'm going to go ahead and say that this season feels slower, although there's so much going on. And I think it's because a lot of the characters are broken up and they're kind of doing their own separate stories instead of the story being all of them together. It feels slower, but man, there's so much going on and some crazy shit. So they did an episode, and you're behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the episode where she's flashing back to being in the padded cell?
No, I did not. I think that's the one I started watching and fell asleep.
That episode is just brilliant. It doesn't really spoil anything to tell you that the entire episode takes place in her padded cell, and there's only 3 characters in the entire episode, her and 2 others. but it's just like it's one of the most like compelling episodes of the entire series. It's crazy.
Interesting. That may not have been the one, because I did start watching one, and she was still talking to the guy who runs the
Dr. Sweet.
Yes. No.
Mr. Sweet, whatever. The taxidermy place or whatever.
Yes, that place. Yes. Yeah. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So that probably wasn't the one that you're talking about, but I am going to get back into it this week, I hope. The only thing I watched worthy of mention was there's something in Japanese cartoons that's for some reason it's called OVA, which it's original something, I don't know. At any rate, they're like extra episodes. So I saw the OVA for Prison School, which have I told you about Prison School?
I know of. I've heard you talk about it.
Okay, so at any rate, it was an extra, like a full bonus episode of Prison School that was just fantastic.
Nice.
That's pretty much it for me. Other than that, I think I caught up on the Vampire Diaries and most of Orphan Black. Not really a lot to talk about there.
I'm catching up on season 2 of Gotham. Not impressed. That's all I'm going to say. It's like they're just like, well, we have no idea what fucking direction we're going, because like someone's in jail, then they're out of jail, then they're like back in jail, they're on the run, they're the good guy. It just fucking pick a lane, Gotham.
I really enjoy Gotham. That's all I can say about that.
Did you get through season 2?
I did, yes.
Do you at least see where I'm coming from?
Yes, I do. Okay. I do, and I still really like the show, and I think that I think you're right that the story's a little all over the place. But you talked about in A Decent Ride how much you love the characters.
Yeah,
I am totally in this for the characters, regardless of how the story goes. So I really like the individual characters a lot. Also,
not enough Paul Reubens.
No, not as much Paul Reubens as you would have expected. But did they not pick the perfect character to play that guy's father?
They really did. Yeah, it was good.
They were like, "Oh, we need to bring in his dad." And they're like, "Can we get Paul Reubens?" And someone was like, "If we can't get Paul Reubens, we're rewriting this whole season."
Yeah, just on principle. Yeah.
So, I will say though, if you're catching up, you plan on watching the remainder, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm on I was actually watching episode 18 of the season when we got started on this call.
There's only, was there maybe 22?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Selena Kyle does something with her hair that she needs to fix before next season. I'm hoping that Gotham got all that feedback from the viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kid's adorable. And by the way, one of the best, what are they called? The little, those little pop vinyls.
Yeah.
If you see the Selena Kyle one, it's perfect.
I'm going to have to look into that.
It's perfect. I happen to see it in a Walgreens of all places. I was cutting through an aisle. I go, hey, look at that. And I go, oh my God, that's amazing. It's adorable.
That's what I'm going to do the moment we end this call. I'm going to go find out what that looks like.
Yeah. I think that we're going to end this call because I think that's all we've got.
All right. So if there was ever an episode that you would want to go over to Patreon and choose the $5 a month level of contribution in order to hear the spoiler talk, I'm not saying that we went on forever or was this big thing, but like you got to hear us talk about the weird stuff that we couldn't talk about in the regular review. So patreon.com/booked, the $5 level, you get access to all of our spoiler talk. So we've done 4 or 5 now. I think this might be the 4th. And they're just fun, and we get to just kick back and talk about whatever, and it's great. So definitely, I recommend doing that.
Yes, you should. And you know what? The other reason people should do that? Do you know that This Is Horror is now ahead of us in Patreon funding?
Yeah, I know that. And they got shirts, man.
They did get shirts, and the shirts are they're pretty cool looking shirts. What else can I say? They're nifty looking shirts.
So 2 great reasons. Get us back up at least level with This Is Horror on the Patreon contributions, and get those spoiler talk episodes because they're really good.
Yep. All right. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, do that. youtube.com/bookpodcast. There will be another booked live tube thing happening Soon, maybe even this week. So Rob and I haven't talked about it yet, but I was gonna pitch trying that, doing that again on maybe Wednesday or Thursday night. So
yeah, I'll do it. I'm always up or down or whatever you want to call it.
All right, so Rob and I have to figure out some scheduling things, but yeah, we're probably gonna do that again this week. Had a lot of fun doing it last time. This time it will not go till 1 a.m. because I have to work in the mornings.
Yeah, we have real jobs.
Yeah, so but it was fun. So if you go ahead and go over to, again, youtube.com/bookpodcast, hit the subscribe button. You'll see it's posted on social media when we're live. Here's what it is in case you didn't catch the last one or didn't watch the whatever replay of it on YouTube. Rob and I talk on video about just stuff and answer questions you guys have and interact with you guys, and it's a lot of fun. Looking forward to doing it again. Had a great time last time. We'll probably have a great time again, and you will miss out on a great time if you are not part of it.
That's right. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Until next time, I'm Rob Olson.
And I'm Livius Ned. Keep ya reading.
You cunt. Keep reading, you cunt.